Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome, CTS230, Section 841 students for the first 8-week term of the fall 2017 semester at Anne Arundel Community College. This is the Networking 3 or the Scaling Networks V6 course, and this afternoon's Packet Tracer tutorial and solution set is going to be on Packet Tracer Activity 10.2.4.3, where we're going to be troubleshooting multi-area OSPF. So let's go ahead and dive in. You can see we've got a pretty generic setup here. We have our backbone area, which is area 0 in the center, and it's the greenish color. And over to the right here on the right-hand side of ABR2, or the area border router number 2, we have area 2. And to the left of ABR1, or area border router 1, we have area 1. And from the looks of it, we also appear to have a pretty good opportunity to do some summarization. Now remember, when talking about summarization with OSPF, unlike EIGRP and the distance vector routing protocols, when we're summarizing with a link state routing protocol, that summarization cannot take place at just any router inside of an area. It must be at an ABR or an autonomous system boundary router, an ASBR, right? Because they're considered at the boundary. And you may, for ASBR, you may hear autonomous system border router or autonomous system boundary router. Both are technically correct. And again, ABR, typically just area border router. Now, this activity is pretty straightforward, and it's actually, whoops, let's click over here. It's actually going to provide us with some steps to run in order to troubleshoot. So a large organization recently decided to change its network from single area OSPF to multi-area OSPF. You're told that in area 1, communication to the 192.168.4.0, which is this network over here, is down, right? So if we were to come over to, let's see if they'll let us on the switch here. If we were to come to the switch, and actually I'm going to use the router just because the text for the router is much larger, right? You can see, we can see much better here. And take a look, boy, we get logged in here and immediately we have a syslog message from the OSPF facility, a warning, which is severity level 4, and then the mnemonic, error received. So received invalid packet. Mismatch area ID from backbone area must be a virtual link, but not found from 172.16.1.94. And so that is a router ID on gig 00. So we're having some area issues here, which would make sense. That's what we're told is going on. And if I try to ping 192.168.4, and what is that loopback address? Is it going to be 4. What? And they don't give us, this is 4.0/24. So let's check router 2 real quick and let's see what IP are we going to test connectivity to here. Show IP interface brief, loopback 0 is 4.1. All right, so we pull back router 4 here and we ping to 192.168.4.1. And as you can see, we clearly have an issue here. Now, obviously, we don't have reachability, but let's see, show IP route. What do we have in our routing table? Well, that could be a huge problem. We have no OSPF learned routes. In fact, we don't see any inter area, the OIA. We don't see any of that information. So if we come over here, it says, check the router configurations in area 1. Right, because R2 is not forming an adjacency. So we're going to step back over here to router 2. It says R2 is not forming an adjacency with R1. And so let's see what that problem may be over here on router 2 and router 1. So we confirm there's no connectivity from area 2 over to area 1. We're not seeing any OSPF routes. If I say show IP OSPF neighbor on 2, there's nothing there. Let's say show run, and we want to take a look at the interface. And so here is the interface, 192.168.2.2. It's a /24. And we have the network statement here. We also have the network statement for the loopback address. So what things could we improve on? Well, we could simply go into router OSPF 1, and I can immediately say passive interface loopback 0, right? And passive interface, is it loopback 0? invalid interface. Do show IP interface brief. That is, or is it different? Loopback 1. Sorry about that. So let's do loopback 1. All right, so we can passive loopback 1 because obviously we're not going to be establishing an adjacency with anybody, and it's already been advertised. The statement looks correct. Do show run. If we look at the OSPF configuration section, we have our router ID, and both of our network statements appear to be correct. So, and the area is correct as well. So let's check here on router 1 to see what the problem might be on router 1. So we extend the window out, we come to router 1, and let's go from user exec to privilege exec, and we'll say show IP OSPF neighbor. And so it appears that router 1 has an adjacency, but that is with the ABR, with 5.5.5.5. So let's do a show run here. And what do we have for the 192.168.2? So we're correct here, right? Everything looks good there. 192.168.2.0 and .3.0 and 1.0, and those all look correct. Did I look past something over here? 0.0.0.255, and is the interface up? Excuse me. All right, it is a /24 2.2. And let's go down to the bottom. So these guys are not establishing an adjacency with each other, and I think I'm just looking past. Oh, yeah, that's the problem. I looked right past it over here on router 2. Whoops, I went right by it again there. Excuse me. Actually, this is correct on router 2. I was thinking that we had duplicate router IDs, and we do not. So we've got the passive interface command on router 1 for the, hold on one second. Yeah, I went right by it. So the passive interface command on gig 00, and my guess would be show IP interface brief, is that gig 00 is in fact that network. So let's get into global config. We're going to say router OSPF1, no passive interface gig 00, and then we are going to passive interface loopback, passive interface loopback 0. And so now the adjacency with router 2 is up. We've passive the correct interface there, and now we should be able to say do show IP OSPF neighbor and see that we have 2 full adjacencies. Now remember, these links appear to be directly connected, but they are not point-to-point links. These are broadcast, right? They could be multi-access links. So they're going to be treated as such, and we're going to have a DR-BDR election. All right, so we've got that information. So what about a do show IP route? Do I see any OSPF information? We do, right? There is the OIA information, right? And we also see that there's a default now coming in. Let's see if router 2 sees that same information, and it should. Do show IP OSPF, or do show IP route OSPF, and there we go. So we are seeing that inter-area information, and in fact, had I looked over here, the answer, so you could clearly see I wasn't reading ahead for the answer as I looked around there on router 1 and router 2 to see what was going on. All right, now check the router configurations in area 2, right? Because it's reported that the network has lost contact, and we're pretty sure we know what the problem is. We saw some of the error messages over here. So let's take a look at router 4, and let's say show run, and let's see. Okay, good. So everything appears to be area 2. I'm not going to worry about, we've got these /27s. I'm going to let that go for right now because it's clearly an area issue here. So let's do this. Show IP OSPF neighbor. Now 3 should have 2 adjacencies, and it doesn't. It has a single adjacency with router 6, or I should say with the neighbor with the router ID 6.6.6.6. But let's do a show run here real quickly and see. 172.16, let's see, that should be this link here. So gig 00 is 172.16.165, and that is a correct subnet mask, And wait a second here, 172.16.162.3. Yep, that is correct. That would work. And All right, so there is the problem right there. And so you can see it, the network statement is correct, but the area that's being used is wrong. It's showing that this link right here is going to be area 0 on router 3, but router 4 believes it to be area 2. And so therefore we have an area mismatch, which is going to result in no OSPF adjacency. So let's come into router OSPF and say no network 172.16.1.64 31 area 0, and then we're going to rerun that same command, except this time we're going to say network 172.16.1.64, use the wildcard mask for a /27, and there we go. We are fully adjacent, and so that was it, right? And as long as we remember the things that need to match in order for an adjacency to form, right? The area numbers have to be the same on the interfaces on that link. We need to have the same MTU, the same subnet mask, no passive interfaces like we saw in this activity, and those are the things that you should be looking for right out of the gate. So now, from router 4's perspective, let's see, does router 4 show IP route OSPF? And we now have that routing information that we were looking for. And interestingly enough, it looks as if, and let me check on the ABR here, or actually the ABR1. Let's see if they did some summarization here. And they did. All right, outstanding. And so remember this is key, that when you go to do summarization, right, with EIGRP, we did it under the interface, where we would go in and say IP summary address, EIGRP, the autonomous system number, and then the summary. With OSPF, it's a little different. With OSPF, you do your summarization under the OSPF router config area. And so again, when we read this, right, we're doing it on the ABR here, and we're summarizing information in area 0. So I always read it like this. From area 1, I am summarizing this information, right? So always remember it's from the area. Because you'll notice on ABR 0, I don't say area 0 range, because I'm not summarizing information from area 0. The information that's being summarized, specifically these 4 networks that we're looking at here, all these 192s, 192, 168s, those are coming from area 1, right? So on the ABR, it's the area from which you are performing that summarization. All right, well, that was very straightforward, right? Definitely an easy lift. It gave us some of the actual answers over on the right-hand side, and that is going to wrap up Packet Tracer Activity 10.2.4.3. All right, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday night.